Welcome to another Southern California San Diego Prep Insider Basketball Podcast. Tommy, Christian, Aaron here inside because it's raining today, or it might rain, so we're too scared.
We're also all trying to avoid getting the flu, so we are not going to school. We are in a hermetically sealed bubble in our offices right now with tons of Purell.
You might have a problem with that because I have a cold.
I got the black lung pops.
Yes, Tommy, it's been a while since I've seen you, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. With New Year's, Christmas, me not being there for the other podcast, it's been a while.
I know. Welcome back.
Yeah.
We're kicking it all at our sprint of a podcast in the middle of the Holiday Classic.
That's right.
That was pretty fun.
That was the first time I'd seen him in a minute, though.
Yeah, you made some
Gang's back all together.
It's just we should send out a Christmas card like this. It's so
And now we all have a cold.
That's okay.
Okay, anyway, so obviously no interviews for this podcast, but we do have the regular stuff. Otherwise, we've got our top 10s, our game balls, and we have a little round table discussion because we actually have a table to sit around.
Yeah.
Christian, you want to give us the San Diego Prep Insider top 10?
Yeah, sure. So this week, Mission Bay takes over the number one slot. And I want to kind of throw out the disclaimer, and you've addressed this on Twitter a couple times. The separation between 1 and like 4 or 5 right now, very, very small. It's only a fraction of a margin because literally Torrey, who's coming in second this week, didn't lose a game. They just didn't have quite as big of wins as Mission Bay. So Mission Bay, Torrey Pines number 2, Vista number 3, San Marcos number 4, Foothills Christian number 5, Mater Dei Catholic 6, La Jolla Country Day 7, St. Augustine 8, Montgomery. My boys, they are hanging around.
Full Monty.
The full Monty is sticking around. You know, this is a team that I really thought was going to be a pat ourselves on the back for a feel-good story the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season.
You really did?
I did. I did not believe that with the lack of league schedule that they had, that they just weren't going to put up signature wins, yada, yada, yada. Not so. Montgomery still sticking around, and Poway rounding out the number 10 slot for our top 10 this week. You like that?
That's all right.
I finally get your approval?
Yeah.
Yes!
I'll give you tepid approval. My top 10, we got Mission Bay at 1. Obviously, they haven't lost any games, and they won a big one at St. Augustine. Number 2, Foothills Christian. Seem to be rounding into good form. Had a really good showing at the Holiday Classic. We were all there. Number 3, I've got Vista. Vista had a really good win at Santa Monica in the Take Flight Challenge. That's a really good out of area win.
This has been on the road a lot.
They have
season.
The Classic at Damien. This game, I mean, that's part of the reason why they're kind of left out of the conversation is because they haven't really been in town, but they're still a very dangerous team. Number 4, I've got Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines rebounding, walloping Westview, which actually beat Foothills Christian earlier this year. I mean,
as we've addressed, though, Foothills does that to one team a year, and
Westview
does that to one team a year.
The Westview game.
Shout out to Michael Mercado last year for baseball. Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. Yep. So keep going.
Number 5, I've got Mater Dei Catholic. Now, this week, 6, I've got La Jolla Country Day. Huge week for them. Down 13 to Santa Fe Christian at their place. Storm back in the fourth quarter, win it in overtime. Then they go into Saints, into the St. Augustine Commons, beat St. Augustine there.
Poor SFC, man.
Yeah.
They just continue to be the best team that takes the most L's.
Yeah, I mean, they're like 9-8 right now, but it's like every one of their 8 losses is a quality loss.
It's good that that's happening to a lot of very patient, tolerant Christian kids who are willing to probably put up with that, because if that was a public school, we'd probably have a...
And it's good that happens now and not the playoffs.
No comment. Number 7, I've got San Marcos. They were idle this week. They got jumped by Country Day. 8, we've got St. Augustine falling after losing 2 consecutive home games for the first time in a decade.
And first time in their new arena.
In their new arena. Think about that.
Look, they've already won the 2020 state championship, so I'm not worried about that team.
We're going to be talking about them a lot over the next few years. Number 9, I've got Poway the Titans. A close win over La Costa Canyon. LCC, another one of those teams, is taking a lot of losses early, but is still, a dangerous team.
LCC is a team that we saw them 2 years ago kind of bottom out, and we asked ourselves what's going on here, but it was a lot of freshmen were starting on that team, and now it's to use the macro word that everyone in sports likes right now, it's hashtag trust the process, and you can start to see the pieces coming together for LCC
definitely.
in a big way.
Yep.
Give us your number 10.
The Philadelphia LCC.
Yeah.
And then my number 10 team is Canyon Crest Academy. The Ravens have a big week this week. They play Vista at Vista on Friday. That's going to be a really important game for them. It's also a very important game for Vista.
And I'll mention one more thing about Visit too. Torres Samuels was one of our top plays for the TV show. So go to Twitter and retweet it if you want Torres to win, because you're competing with kids from Orange County and LA, and
it's always tough to beat a Sharif O'Neal dunk, but come on, San Diego, let's rally. Let's rally.
All right, we're good. We're going to our game balls now. I'll give out my 3 really quickly. Aaron, you put it pretty eloquently already. La Jolla Country Day beating Santa Fe Christian in overtime. Then they beat Saints on the road. In that Saints game, Ryan Langboard, heard of him? 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Raymond Liu, 3 points, 4 and 4 as well. Next, I've got Raekwon Everett from Lincoln. He dropped 30.
He was cooking.
30 against La Jolla. A good opponent, too, so good job, Raekwon. And then my 3rd game ball is going to be split between Jackson Larson and Nisham Carter, 16 and 15 respectively, when Christian beat Point Loma.
Yeah, that Christian team, we put them on the top 10, I think, once so far this season, but they're a team that just, they have that physical athleticism that you look at it and you're like, ooh, that might be one that you leave off the top 10, but you go, I'm going to pick them definitely to be a sleeper in the playoffs so that you look like you know what you're talking about, but actually all season long they were already a really good team. Aaron, game balls?
My game balls are going to go to Micaiah Morris of Vista. He won player of the game at the Take Flight Challenge. Actually, they give you a nice, cool sweatshirt, and you get your picture taken. It's pretty cool. He scored 9 straight points to blow open that game against Santa Monica. Nick Berhalter, that's a name we don't talk about too often, and a school we don't talk about too often, Santana, with a come-from-behind win over Valhalla. Berhalter, really quiet in the first half, explode in the second half, ended up with 23 points, hit 4 threes during the proceedings. Really good game. Jacob Hutchison is another name that we really haven't mentioned around here. And again, Escondido, a team that really kind of bottomed out last year, but this year they're 8-8. And they've been very competitive in some games. They took a loss to El Camino 71-61, but Jacob had 21 points in that game. So big performance from the junior guard. Watch out for them in Division III. I didn't have them on my radar in D3. They are definitely a sleeper in that division. And then big Mace, welcome back. Welcome back to Matt Bender. Francis Parker, 30-day sit-out period. It's over. He comes back, 26 points, and Francis Parker beats Bishops 54-49, and that is actually a quality win because Bishops has been playing good basketball of late, and Francis Parker got it done. And a key thing about that game, no Max Gwynn yet. I caught up with Max Gwynn on Saturday. He was watching his little brother play. He's in a boot for a couple of weeks due to a severely sprained ankle. So for them to get that win without one half of that dynamic duo, that bodes well for Francis Parker moving forward in league play.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting just to see how dynamic Matt Bender can be. I think that there's no doubt that he has a ton of talent, but the way that he was used at Country Day, we saw him as the interior big man who dished the ball back out to shooters like Langborg. So the question is, can those numbers be sustained with his physicality and his size? I say yes. I don't see any reason or any part of his game that he's shown that makes me think that there's a big flaw or anything like that to be seen.
Well, in the system they play in, too, that Princeton offense, over the years, Jim Thome has relied on his big men, whether it be Evan Fitzner, Tim Harrison a couple of years ago. Those guys all put up prolific numbers. So I fully expect for Bender to benefit from that as well.
Princeton offense scoring 26 is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of points for an offense.
5-point win in a Princeton offense feels like you're down 13 the whole game.
Yeah, tough.
I'll start my game balls with Christian Choice and Patrick Henry getting that dub over La Jolla. I know that La Jolla is not the perennial powerhouse that they've been the last couple years,
This
but
is not your big brother's La Jolla team.
no, it's not my La Jolla teams. I know that for dang sure. It's not Peter Sefton and company up and down that court winning back-to-back CIF titles.
And it's
But that's
not Reed Farley either.
Yeah, Reed Farley was the B- version of my decade of La Jolla basketball. All love to read. But we have the text message. We have we have the look. I can send out the screen caps of the text messages between me and Tommy at that championship game where La Jolla was up 20 plus, and Tommy going, "Man, maybe I should have picked La Jolla to win this," and me going, "No, trust me, La Jolla is going to drop this one." And what happened? Country Day won. So, yeah, no, I'm off that bad. Journalistic objectivity is actually there for me on that one. So, yeah, Christian Choice, though. This Patrick Henry team, maybe not 7 deep, maybe not 10 deep, maybe not going to run away with stuff, but look out, man. They have the opportunity to be explosive when they are all healthy and all on the court.
They can shoot you out the gym.
Yeah, and when you have that going, that could be a hot hand. Other game ball goes to the winning streak right now that the San Diego Cavers have going on. Hey. They got 4 straight. Okay. They beat Hoover most recently.
No. They beat Crawford.
They beat Crawford. It was they take on Hoover next.
Yep.
They beat Crawford most recently. They haven't lost this year yet. I know that might be overly dramatic, but this is a team that you probably just want to talk for a whole separate sub-podcast about. But this is a team that, no joke, we can put them on that fringe of being in the top 10 conversation now because of the dominant way in which they're winning.
I won't go that far as to say top 10. I'll definitely say
in the conversation, though, is what
I would say they're a top 25 team on the lower end of that top 25. But, what they did to Olympian a couple of last week, that was really impressive. Olympian is a solid team, a Division III contender. They beat them by 20, and it wasn't close. And, Thomas Marcus, when he is dialed in, when he's locked in, he's one of the top 10 prospects in San Diego. He's that good.
I was going to say, they get a Thomas Marcus transfer that kind of falls in their lap. So that's one of the best players in the county just arriving right there. So,
of course, shameless plug. My kid in that Olympian game hit 6 threes, so he did all right for himself. But it's been nice to see San Diego, both football and basketball, riding the ship this year.
Oh, wait. I know we weren't allowed to call him it earlier, but can we call him Baby Curry yet, or got to still hold off on that? No. Okay. All right. Sorry.
And also, I'll just throw in the obligatory line that Tommy wants to get to about Thomas Marcus bearing down and getting to work this year.
Yes, he's bearing down and get to work.
You better hope he bears down and gets to work after what happened with Rich Rod. We'll see. We will see.
Do I make a hostile work environment for you, or are we good on that front?
No, you're all right. It's Tommy I'm worried about.
Hey, look, just because I've been asked to separate his girlfriends at different broadcasts, kidding, joking, joking.
That was a Rich Rodriguez reference.
Yeah, look, we're staying in the state of Arizona. We're switching away from the Herm Edwards jokes to Rich Rod jokes. Just
moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
Herm Edwards just learned what a football jersey looked like 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Look, we said we had journalistic integrity. We didn't say we had bad taste in jokes, though. Guys, I want to just kind of, not necessarily our dish or dunk segment, but I want to just talk about something that's on the horizon this year. The Open Division playoffs are going to look a lot different than the last couple of years, where it has been one or two is going to face each other in the finals, and everyone else is just hoping and praying that Haley's Comet brings a sign of the changing times. And that might be a Kearney joke. Neither here nor there. But realistically, let's be honest, no 8 seed was going to beat TJ Leaf.
Yeah.
And last year,
teams were scurrying away
one through 3 wasn't going to drop a mysterious L in the playoffs. It was going to be someone in that Cathedral, Foothills, Saints, Torrey, one of those 4 was going to make it. So
last year, not Cathedral.
Or not Cathedral. 2 years ago was Cathedral. Yeah. Just this year, though, we have Vista up in the top couple, 3 to 5. Statistically, or points-wise, they are the 8 seed. Mm-hmm. Mission Bay, they are the runaway, but we've also seen them play a 12 or what was it, 17-11 at the end of halftime versus Lincoln. It was something low scoring like that. We've seen Saints lose a couple games. We've seen Mater Dei in this conversation. We haven't seen San Marcos for the last couple of years. Now they're in it. Just what's the vibe? Because looking at now, we got league play coming up. We got some really meaningful games going into the next couple months. But Open Division is much more of an open field than it has been in the last couple of years. So how do you see coaches' mentalities? And if you're in that coaching team, where do you come out on, am I going full blast for the highest seed I can get? Am I still trying to play that numbers game? Or am I just resting my kids up? Because no matter where we come in that Open Division spots, we can play our best game and we can win.
I will say this, and just this goes across platform for every sport. You see it a lot. People hate saying it. A lot of teams want to be that 9 seed. Because in most sports, the 1 and 2 teams in the, whatever the Open Division is, they're normally heavy favorites. Basketball is not the case. This will be probably one of the first times, in the last couple of years since they've been doing all the, the relegating up and down, where teams want to get that 8 seed. and it will make everything a lot better. It's going to be more competitive. The 1-8 game is not going to be just a snooze. It's going to be a good game. Every single Open Division game is going to be good. There's going to be no more, oh, this kid maybe should rest a couple games because, we want that 9 seed. It's not going to happen this year. I think it's going to make for way more competitive basketball towards the stretch.
Take a deep breath and just get it all out.
Now, having an opportunity to talk to a number of coaches at the beginning of the year, there was a thought that Saints would be the runaway favorite, but then Tayshaun transferred, and that really changed things. Then, of course, Torrey Pines, upset Vista in the North County Classic, and there was discussion about Torrey Pines, possibly being that number 1 seed that you wanted to avoid. But then they turned around and lost to St. Augustine at the Torrey Pines Showcase. The parity this year is absolutely amazing, and like you guys have talked about, we had a couple years ago Kearney, with the forfeit that they inputted at the last minute that knocked them down into Division I and knocked poor Grossmont into the Open without Tommy Rutherford's services. I mean, that was painful to watch. This year, no such talk. Talked to a lot of coaches, and while they would prefer to host a game. Let's say a 1-8, let's say it's Torrey Pines and Vista. Would Vista like to be the 1 seed and host Torrey Pines? Sure. But, on paper, those teams are very evenly matched regardless of where they're going to play that game. If we're looking at, let's say, your top 10 right now, you would have Mission Bay facing Saints in the first round of the Open Division, and we just saw that game, and that game was, 3 points both directions until the very end of the game. Torrey Pines playing La Jolla Country Day. Torrey Pines actually beat La Jolla Country Day pretty solidly in the Coast News Classic, but that game today will be a totally different game. Totally different game in terms of how La Jolla Country Day is playing at this point. So, San Marcos has been largely out of the conversation again, much like Vista, because they just haven't played a ton of teams.
Literally been to Florida playing.
Yeah, they were out of town on a plane, and when they were playing games locally, they were playing without Elijah Randall. So they, one of their starters who was out with a broken foot for the beginning of the year. So you've got them losing by 5 points to Torrey without one of their big guns. This is unlike anything we've seen in the Open Division era. I think right now, statistically, Vista, whereas last year teams would have been hustling to get into 9, Vista doesn't want to drop to 9. Playing in Division I would be a disappointment for a team with such lofty expectations and goals. So I think all 8 of these teams want to stay this year. Could we say that years past? No, not at all.
I'll say 2 things. I'll say that with the difference in basketball versus other sports in terms of state seeding, where everybody here gets an addition to a state seeding, this will be really interesting because I think for the first time in a long time, you're not going to have to risk taking that 40-point L in an Open Division first rounder and then being dropped down 2 or 3 brackets in the state and not getting a home game. You're going to see teams be like, oh, I'm gunning for that because I want to get in so that we can get a home state game after a good showing in our regional Open Division playoffs. Yeah. So I think that there's a bigger picture at play here. I'll also say in terms of bigger picture at play here, all of these teams that we're talking about, the class of 2019 is present on every single one of these rosters. So we're talking about teams that maybe want decent playoff experience for their juniors so that they can return next year with a dynamic, deep lineup that has done it.
The only roster I would say is San Marcos. For San Marcos, the future is now, or the future is in 2020. Elijah Randall, Chris Howell, 2020 and 2021. But the bulk of the rest of the team is 2018. Cody Clouette, all of their other role players are all seniors. So for them, it's now or never. But for the rest of these teams, Mission Bay.
You say that until the next kid transfers over there, and then we're all good.
Sure. But Mission Bay, all juniors. Torrey Pines, all juniors. Vista, Jordan Hillstock, and Makai Morris, who's playing really well. Foothills Christian, ton of juniors. Modern Day Catholic, they're another team that doesn't have a ton.
They got young talent, though.
They've got young talent that needs to.
But I'll count juniors and sophomores in the same general conversation. You want them to have a depth of playoff experience, not, we snuck him in for 2 minutes when we were getting blown out by Foothills, and he got to sniff the court, so he knows a little bit. It's this guy prepped for a week for an Open Division game, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. We could go on and on about that for eons, but
Yeah.
People don't care after a little while about what we start to have to say. Guys, I'm going to do something different. I normally email you in advance game picks so you can have a little time to prep and we can all kind of coordinate on who's going to pick what. Not so this week.
Pop quiz.
We have pop quizzes.
Gosh.
We have me just literally going through the schedule for the next couple days. So let's start with our Wednesday games.
Okay.
And I don't even really want long-term explanations on this. Let's just get some games kind of off the top of your head. We got La Jolla Country Day Bishops.
Country Day.
Country Day.
Country Day. We got Hilltop Castle Park.
Hilltop.
Hilltop.
I will also go Hilltop. Justin Wilson. We had them label him as potentially. We had their players obviously label him as the best, but he's been dropping 20 plus. He's been someone who we saw them as a 14 seed last year do something big. You never know.
There may be a little bit of breaking news about Hilltop that I've got to confirm, but I think looking at their Max Preps page, they had some forfeits. A significant amount.
So they're going to drop down to that 14 seed again. Yeah. Perfect. Look, this is all just the long con for me to have that winning bracket this year that I've been chasing every single year. High Tech San Diego, O'Farrell.
High Tech San Diego.
High Tech San Diego.
I'll take O'Farrell because sometimes you just don't like to have sweeps. Let's go to our Friday games.
Good one on that page.
Oh, no. Okay, well, then lay it on me. Ask me.
Escondido Adventist and Tri-City Christian. Those are two really good.
Escondido Adventist.
You're going to go EAA?
Tri-City.
I'm going Tri-City with that one.
All right, these are our Friday games because we've got a ton of them. So, guys, Santana, Pacific Ridge.
Ooh. I'm going to go Pack Ridge.
I'm going to go Santana. Pack Ridge, I think, just had a pretty big loss Oceanside recently. I'm going to go with Santana.
I will also go with Santana. You talked about them earlier in this podcast being a team that we don't necessarily talk about a whole lot, and I like that they are a team that doesn't necessarily always have a superstar that the ball goes through. So if one person's not hot, just rotate and find another way to win that game. Rancho Buena Vista, San Diego.
Ooh. A few weeks ago, I would have said San Diego, but I'm going to go RBV. You know what? That may be a game that one of us needs to go to because Patrick McLaughlin is eligible.
He's back, or he's here for the first time.
He's here for the first time. And I heard his first game, he was really good. So he's the truth. So I got to go. Might have to go watch that after watching my son's game.
RBV.
I'll also go RBV. We talked about them, and we saw them having a couple of close games in the Hilltop tournament earlier this year that would have been changed if they had a shooter who could knock down buckets everywhere, and that's what McLaughlin offers.
Yep.
Olympian, Eastlake.
Ooh. I'm going to go with Olympian on this one.
I'm going to go Eastlake. I think that we saw raw, unfigured out talent early in the season with some of their baseball kids who are now starting to gel as a basketball team.
Eastlake.
Okay.
Grossmont, Helix.
Ooh. This one's actually probably going to be one of the games of the night. I'm going to go with Helix, but it's going to be close.
Helix, too. Grid Hoopers are now back and officially in the swing of things. I'll take the Highlanders.
I'll go Helix. I think that there's a lack of understanding about how good that Helix team is because everyone's looking at, they've taken losses. They don't have Miles. Well, they still have a lot of kids that can score in a lot of different ways. But some things that I saw from them early in the season was defense, actually. They were shutting teams down in a way that you kind of go, okay, like maybe they don't need someone who's a guaranteed 25 a night because they can play Steve Fisher type first one to 50 wins basketball. Yeah. And I think that is an underrated form of basketball. Sometimes that can get misinterpreted as bad offense, but it's actually just good defense. Anything you're eyeing on here that you want to talk about?
You know what? Interesting game I think will be Cathedral Catholic Mission Bay.
Oh, Mission Bay, baby.
Boogie, Mission Bay.
I'm going to go Mission Bay, but I'm going to say this right now. Obina Anyanwu is really, really good.
Yeah, no, Cathedral's gearing up for something. They're not going to take as long to rebuild as we might have thought they were at the beginning of the season.
No, not at all.
Just a reminder, all the games we're talking about right now are this Friday, huge slot. I want to throw two more out at you. Steel Canyon, West Hills. West Hills, Cam Berry this year has been dropping buckets like it's going out of style. Steel Canyon has been winning CIF titles left and right like it's going out of style. So not that necessarily their football and water polo success translates into their basketball success, but there's one school every year that seems to have that mojo. And right now, Hamul is throwing victory parades every 4 months for another team. So Steel Canyon, West Hills. I'm going to go with West Hills because Cam Berry is he's nice.
I'm going to go Steel Canyon because Cam Berry, he's a very prolific scorer, but, he's often kind of the knife in a gunfight, where he's coming out and doing his, but the other team has 2 or 3 guys who can also score, and the team is just outmatched. In the Steel Canyon's case, Grant Childs, Gage Sanders, Kobe Sanders, and when he's back, with his, he had a knee injury, but Thomas Fishburne. Very good.
Tommy Tom had everything injured by the end of that football season. That kid was basically getting wheeled off at the football championships. But that's what happens when you play 15 or 16 weeks. Tommy?
Steel Canyon.
As always, eloquent in his brevity.
Yeah, I mean, when you go last, there's not much stuff to say.
Guys, part of what you love about basketball season is just that it's not 1 or 2 games and it falls off real quickly. So there's a bunch more games. If we didn't get to your school, if we didn't get to your game, if there's weekend games or anything like that, just hit us up.
Talk to us.
We will put polls up on Twitter. We can find Real Tommy Morris.
At Real Tommy Morris.
At Real Tommy Morris.
Full-time Hoops 1.
At Mr. CPED. You can find our show at SD Prep Insider. We'll have all of this up all week, and we'll be retweeting some of this stuff. Then hopefully the bubonic plague will have moved on to another city so we can be back out and about next week. Any final notes?
Go Cavers.
National championship game. I know it's not basketball, but Roll Tide.
Go Vikings. And we will see you guys next week.